everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie from The Farmhouse Mom, and in today's video, if you saw from the intro, we are going to be baking and birthing babies, and we also are going to talk about something that is very controversial. It's my number one most asked question when it comes to having baby goats on the farm, and actually somebody has already asked me in the last few days just from sharing a few clips of the babies. So I hope you find that informative, and I hope it answers some questions about why we do things the way we do on the farm. Thank you so much for being here. We have had a really fun week with the kids. They have been having a blast in the snow. We've got 6 inches here in southern Missouri. We often don't get a lot of heavy snowfall. It's heavy for us. If you're, up in Ohio or Iowa, you probably get a lot more. But we've had a lot of fun playing around. The first thing we're going to bake today is some sourdough peanut butter cookies. This is my favorite cookbook, the Blue Ribbon Recipes. It has all the recipes that I remember as a child, my mom and my grandma making, and I have been, over the last few months, converting those older recipes that I love and that are familiar and taste like childhood to me. I've been converting those over to sourdough, so adding a little bit more digestibility, adding a little bit more flavor to those older vintage recipes. But before I start making my cookies, I am going to put a loaf of sourdough bread in the oven. I have had this loaf in my refrigerator for about 2 days. That is one of the main things that I love about sourdough, is that it's so flexible. You can make something and it actually gets better when you put it in the refrigerator because it will ferment and it actually increases the digestibility and then also the availability of the nutrients that are in the food. I found myself fermenting vegetables, especially jalapenos, last summer. They were so delicious. We really thought that we had enough to last us, and they were gone in like 2 months. We definitely are going to have a lot more peppers in the garden for this summer. Anyway, back to our cookies. So for this vintage recipe, what I did was add a 1/2 cup of sourdough starter, and then I did take away a little bit of liquid in the form of an egg. It called for 2 eggs, and I only put 1 in. But you will be able to find this recipe on my website, thefarmhousemom.com, on Friday. I'll have that ready for you. And then for Friday's video, we are going to make a loaf of sourdough bread, and then we're also going to make a sandwich, a sourdough sandwich wrap bread. I make it all the time. My kids love it, and it makes it so easy just to whip it up and put it in the refrigerator, and I always have dinner available and ready if I've got just something chilling in the refrigerator. If you are curious about the mixer I am using, it is called a Bosch Universal Mixer, and it is available from the same company that I have my grain mill from. It is NutriMill, and I will leave a link below in the description box, and you can save an extra $20 using my code TheFarmHouseMom if you are in the market for a new mixer. I use it a lot when I'm using heavier breads like a sourdough, and I also use it when I am baking. I don't put it out on the counter because it does take up a larger footprint than my KitchenAid mixer. I put that in the corner over in my baking section, if you've seen my kitchen before. But this is pretty lightweight, and it also has suction cups, and so I store it in my pantry, and then when it's time to bake, I bring it out and I just suction cup it on to my quartz countertop, and it works really good. I like using it for cookies and breads because what I usually do is make a double batch. So what usually happens is I will make the first batch right away, and then the other one will be in the refrigerator for a couple days, and we will either eat it or I will bake it and then I'll freeze it. I do that a lot with banana bread, and I also will do that with cookie dough. I feel like it's really simple just to freeze the cookie dough, and then, when you have kids around, they're always hungry, especially boys, and it makes it easy for me to pull something out and just bake it. And especially during this time when I'm kidding and having baby goats, it's been a really rough week, I have to say. I've been not getting a lot of sleep, but my husband has been really great, and he's been kind of letting me to go to bed at like 6 o'clock, and then I usually can kind of sleep until midnight, and then I'm up every couple hours just to make sure that nobody is having a baby in the middle of the night, in the middle of the freezing winter time. I do have a camera out there, but cameras fail, and I just really don't want to miss anything. And so I feel better just getting up and going out and checking on the babies every couple of hours. As exhausting as it is to be in the middle of kidding season and not getting a lot of sleep, having multiple babies born during the same week, I really enjoy it. It's such a special privilege to just welcome new life. It's just so special, and it's nice to have fresh goat milk on the farm. We often will have a month period or so where we don't have fresh milk because you do have to let the girls, have a little bit of time off. They need to recoup their body, and so they usually have 2 or 3 months that they're not producing any milk for us. I had to take a break and come down and see what the boys were doing. I knew they would be starving. Remember what it was like when you were a kid and you were just outside playing in the snow and having such a great time? You'd be so hungry. So I knew that they would really appreciate some warm cookies and some fresh goat milk, and they really did. And of course, they were so happy to show off what they were doing, and they were building forts and igloos, and they were just really having a good time. And of course, Rosie was having a great time as well, and she needed a little bit of a snack herself. Okay, now we are going to talk about keeping livestock. We're going to talk about farming and goat farming and some things that we do on the farm that always raises questions and kind of always makes people a little bit upset or concerned. So the subject that we are going to be talking about today is raising baby goats and pulling the kids from their mother at birth. So that is the method of livestock care that we do on this farm. When the babies are born, I go out there with the moms. I take the babies away right away as they're born. I dry them off, and then I bring them into our little heated milk room, or I bring them into my house depending on how severe and how cold it is. When it's like 0 degrees, I oftentimes don't trust that the lights will stay on, and so I'll bring them inside. Anyway, they generally will come in here into this milk room, and there are multiple births. There's usually 2 or 3. We had 4 that were born the other day, and those babies are brought in, and then I come back in. I care for the mother. I bring her some warm molasses water so she can get some B vitamins in and just get a little bit of replenishment for her body. And then I will milk her. I will milk all of the colostrum. I'll collect that, and then I will come in and I will feed the babies. I make sure that the babies get colostrum within the first 20 to 30 minutes of life, just so they can get that nice head start and, get nice and healthy, get a nice full belly. So a lot of times this is upsetting to people because they think that it's really cruel to pull these little babies away from their mom. They think it's cruel for the babies and then also for the moms. They get their babies taken away. They go through this really hard time of labor, and then they don't get to have the babies with them. So I just want to share why we do this process. So if you look at an animal in the wild that's kind of close to a goat, that would be a deer. The infant mortality rate for deer here in southern Missouri is about 40 to 50%. And so that is the reason why we do pull the babies at birth. We have only done this for the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years. We used to dam raise before, but we have had a lot of deaths with the babies staying with the moms. And so what happens is you'll have them in a nice warm barn, and the little infant baby goat doesn't know any better, and they'll crawl off and they'll get in a little corner and they're not around their siblings or their mother, and they'll freeze to death. And then also, as I mentioned, they will often have multiples, 3 or 4 babies. And so a mother goat only has 2 teats. And so usually the 2 stronger ones will survive, and then the 2 smaller ones won't survive because they're smaller as it is. And then also they're not getting as much food as the bigger ones. Other mother goats don't like other babies. And so when a mother goat has babies, they are concerned about the survival of their own baby, and they don't really care about the other babies. And so if a poor little baby goat who really, doesn't know any better, it's only a couple days old, it'll come up to what they think is their mom. And if it's not their mother, that mother goat will kind of headbutt it away, and you can injure the baby goat, and it's just not a good situation. So for the health of the babies, we pull them at birth so we can have as close to 100% survival rate for our babies. And it also helps keep things a lot more sanitary. So Mother Nature can be very wonderful, but also very cruel. And so when we are raising goats in an artificial environment in a farm, they're not out on the wild, we make sure we have a system in place that will keep everybody the healthiest and make sure that a large portion of the babies have a really good shot at life. So I hope this helps you understand maybe just a little bit more about farming. It's really hard to look at a situation when you're not in it and you don't really know how things work. It's really hard to understand it. So I hope maybe this helps you understand a little bit more of why we do what we do. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'd be more than happy to talk about goats. I could do that all day long. I love them so much. They're just such a special animal. So, thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to see you Friday. We are going to be baking some sourdough, and I hope you are having a great week. Thanks for stopping by the farm, and I'll see you soon.